Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Global Citizens. My name is Calvin. I'm the show's founder and I'm the host. So my guest for today is actually special in two ways. First off is this is actually the first of my broadcast whereby I'm actually the one in the middle of the night. My guest usually is the one who is in the evening times. And the second one was this gentleman was so friendly that when I chat with him, I assumed that he was like a host of a talk show or maybe like one of those kids show. His name is Mr. Pablo Troncoso. So Pablo, nice to meet you and welcome to the show.
Calvin, thank you so much for having me on. And listen, if we need to flip it, and I can be the host, at one point I can be in the evening, and then you can be in the morning. That's completely fine. But I'm just so excited to be on and to hopefully just add value to your audience
Yeah,
and
most
talk
welcome.
about some things that maybe can help push the needle along in their entrepreneurship journey.
You're most welcome.
Yeah.
All right. So for those of you who just tuned into this channel for the very first time, Global Citizens is a platform that I use to host third culture kids, cross culture kids, global nomads, and expatriates to share their personal experience living and working in a country that is outside of their passport. Reason being is that when you visit a country on a holiday, typically at least 90% of it, there's no way you will leave the country with a negative feeling because you're there for a holiday. But when you come in to visit for a new country, you want to work there, then it's a completely different ballgame because there are things like ethics, cultures, and of course, habits that locals would have developed. So Pablo here is actually a third culture kid, just like myself, and he spent before the age of 16. I recall he has spent he has lived in 6 countries in 4 continents. So Pablo, maybe you want to elaborate a bit more on that.
Yeah, absolutely, Calvin. And listen, by the way, I love what you're doing with
Thank you
this
so much.
with this podcast, with this video vlog, because it's these kinds of things that TCKs, cross culture, expats, global nomads, we need to be doing more of, because this is what's going to connect us. And so that's why I'm
Absolutely.
so fired up about what you're doing. It's a great example of what we all need to be doing more of. And I know there's a lot of people that are starting to do this or have been doing this. So even those people, I want to give them a lot of kudos too. But it's funny. Getting in this journey and not realizing what I was getting into. This journey of the whole third culture entrepreneur thing for me started about 6 to 8 months ago, and really quickly, a background for me was, yes, I have a number, right? I call it
Yeah.
1664. That's my
Yeah.
number, 1664. I say by the age of 16, I had lived in 6 countries on 4 continents. And actually, I spoke 3.5 languages. Okay,
Fair
today
enough.
I speak about 2, right? Spanish and English.
Okay.
But yeah, but by age 16, I mean, I had it's so funny when you share that information with someone who's not third culture, or someone who is not a global nomad. It almost sounds like you're bragging, right?
Yep.
But you and I know that this is just normal. So this is one of the things that I've come to learn throughout my past, but also now, is that if we really want to share information with other different cultures, especially cross culture and third cultures, that we need to share these kind of almost these bare bone things of, hey, this is my number, 1664. And I guarantee you that other person, right? Like Calvin, if you shared yours with me, you would say mine is this, this, and this. And I would be like, that's so cool, man. Tell me more about that.
For
Um,
my case, it's actually 15 too. So
uh-huh.
I'm actually a Chinese Indonesian, but I grew up in Singapore for 15 years.
Wow.
I'm actually more appropriately a cross culture. However,
Yeah.
why I consider myself a TCK is because I've never really felt I truly belong in both of my home country.
Mm.
I'm Indonesian by passport, by citizenship, by birth, but I spent as much time in Singapore as much as Indonesia, and Singapore itself is a cocktail of at least 4 different races. So as a result, you tend to see the different culture, ethics, and personalities, and of course, you have your own that you develop from your parents' upbringing, and
Mhm.
then suddenly, like when you come back home, I'm currently based in Indonesia,
Mhm.
and when you come home, there's a reverse culture, and you're like,
Mm,
oh my god, what did I get myself into?
yeah, yeah, and I love that. I never heard the cocktail of cultures. Um, I like that. I like. See, I used to bartend, so that would have been cool. Um, but so it's interesting that you mentioned the non-belonging. Okay,
Yep,
if I can talk about that for a minute, because I know that that's a struggle that a lot of us deal with. But
absolutely.
let me just preface it with this, Calvin, is that and if you're watching this live or if you're watching a replay of this, I just want you to know that as a third culture, as a cross culture person, that you are made remarkable. You
Absolutely.
are absolutely remarkable. I guarantee you have some skills and some qualities that your multicultural or monocultural friends are probably blown away by. Okay, and and the reason I want to touch on this is because I remember when in my freshman year in high school. Okay, I'm going to go
Yep.
back a few years if it's all right, Calvin. My freshman
Take
year
your
in
time.
high school, we were waiting outside of the locker room, right? They were going to be posting who made the baseball team.
Okay.
Okay. And it was my freshman year. I was trying out for the baseball team, and I knew I was going to make it. I was so fired up because I had been playing baseball my whole life. I actually started when I lived in Japan. Okay.
Oh wow,
I
isn't
started playing.
Japan?
Yeah,
Wow,
I
that's
loved it. I loved it. I started playing baseball and soccer, but I really, really had a passion for baseball. I knew everything about it. So really this moment, I felt like I was made for this moment, right? And I could
yep.
I could almost see it in my mind what was going to happen when I found my name on that list. So the coach opened the door, we all ran in, and we rush up to the bulletin, and all we have to do is see our name.
Yep.
And so I ran my finger down the list one time. I didn't see my name. I say, okay, wait, maybe I was too excited. Let me try again. So I ran down a little bit slower, didn't see my name. And so for a
Uh,
third time, Calvin, I ran my finger down the list really slow because you can't miss my name, Pablo Troncoso. And I didn't see my name.
oh darn.
And yeah, man, I was devastated. I started to panic. I got this fear, and then all of a sudden this embarrassment, and I left without saying a word. And even still to this day, like I can feel it. You know what I mean? And what happens is
Absolutely.
that was the first time I had felt rejection. But if you're a TCK, um, it hurts like twice as much.
Yeah,
It hurts
been
twice
there.
as much because there's nothing. We don't have like a family, a community that we can go back and relate to. We don't have this rootedness, right, where we feel like belong, because finally I was going to belong to something, and now all of a sudden, just like that, it was gone. So it's become my passion, Calvin, to really help third culture people, and specifically in the areas of entrepreneurship, because you are remarkable, and it's not until you actually understand what makes you remarkable are you able to then move forward. And sometimes we stay stuck because we have rejection, we have this non-belongingness, we have these ideas of loneliness and hopelessness. And trust me,
Absolutely.
I've been there in all different walks of my life, and it takes a lot to overcome that. So I've been able to overcome that in many different ways, specifically through business, and that's why that's my focus. But my real goal, Calvin, is to help 24,000 entrepreneurs by the year 2024.
Okay.
Specifically, October 24th, 2024. I want to help 24,000 entrepreneurs, whether they're TCK or cross culture, to find their voice, build out their message, and find their identity in their entrepreneurship journey. So that's really where my heart sits for what this is all about.
That's really noble, actually. So 2024. So now it's 2019. So in 5 years,
Yep.
5 years time, yeah.
Yeah.
Indirectly, we're going to be end of the year. So 4 years time.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to see that. I'm really, really looking forward to see that.
Yeah. Well,
You meant, yep, sorry.
and by the way, just you might be wondering why October 24. if you look on the calendar, and see what, what's the holiday, or what's the thing that's celebrated on October 24th, is United Nations Day.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
October 24th.
Yeah.
Oh,
October
okay, I
24th
didn't know that.
is United Nations Day. And as a subset of that, okay, Calvin, this doesn't matter, but it just so happens. This is why I know I was born for this. I was literally born for this, because guess what day I was born on?
October 24th.
There you go. And you won. You won.
Okay.
Yeah. No. So, but anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. But listen, it's things like that we can do, right? As entrepreneurs, if we can have fun around the goals that we want to set, around the ideas of the why, right? Our purpose and what it is that we do. If we can have some enjoyment, have fun around it, it makes it all that more interesting, and not only interesting, achievable,
Yep.
right? So, but you got to get your message out there. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay. Pablo, mind if I piggyback something of earlier point that you make? Yeah.
Sure.
So last Wednesday, I actually was interviewed by a lady called Miss Kristen Chen. She's a very lovely very lovely lady. She is actually a TEDx speaker on TCK. So yeah, one of the opinion that I gave her is that being a TCK is actually one of the biggest fortune you can have in this current era, in the
Sure.
era of the millennials and the social media era.
Yeah.
And earlier you mentioned a very unique point, a very good point actually. It's because when people who are not TCK actually sees our life maybe from the outside, maybe we are multilingual, or maybe we have lived in different countries. Maybe to them it seems glamorous, but what people actually fail to notice is, well, there are actually there's actually two sides of the coin, right? There's what you said, there's a moment of loneliness. It's because when you feel rejected, you feel rejected. I recall there's something called the staircase moment for me. It's because when I was in primary school in Singapore, there's like one empty staircase corner where I just like to hang out there. At that time, I would do anything from, I'm not drinking. At that time, I wasn't legal age. So I was just eat my lunch there. I would just play my phone there, anything. It's because at that time, that loneliness was something that's the only thing I got. It's because I can't relate to the people around me. And well, at that time, when I was still really new to Singapore, it's really difficult. In fact, I still retain, people tend to say I have something called an accent. I guess it's because, well, in the Indonesian, especially during my generation, we grew up learning English through watching the 1980s Schwarzenegger, Rambo, and all that. So that's how we imitate how we
Yeah.
speak English.
That's good.
Whereas in Singapore, they use a much accent that is descended from Cantonese, and they call it Singlish. So as a result, the way I speak sounds very different. It sounds very pretentious.
Sure.
I'm not trying to be pretentious.
Right.
That's how I speak.
Right.
So yeah, that was actually my loneliness moment back when I was in Singapore in my younger days. And why I mentioned actually being a TCK or cross culture is actually the most beneficial thing that somebody can have at this moment. Is because you can see two sides of the coin from everything. You get the best, and at the same time, you have experienced the worst of the different countries that you live in.
Yeah.
And as a result, you can have developed a certain point of view. You develop a different kind of mindset and perspective, which, like what you said, somebody who's monoculture will never be able to do. It's because they will see stuff from how they were taught their entire life. This is something that TCK and CCK will be able to have an edge on.
Yeah.
And in the millennial generation that actually relies too much on social media at times, or any kind of approval or recognition, we are actually the one that can be working with them. It's because we live their life, and at the same time, we have a different way of living our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Can I say three things on that, Calvin?
Absolutely. Please.
Three qualities that I want to give to you and to your audience Listen, we have many qualities. We have many of them, and from my years of research, but also going back and just seeing what helped me really tip the scales in my business favor. Three qualities, and you've touched on them, but I want to show you how, if we can just package them, how they can really help us. So the first one is that we are natural. Well, I don't want to say natural. We are unnatural risk takers, because natural means you're born with it. We're not born.
Yeah.
We're not born. Not until we have the experiences of going through TCK life that we discover we are unnatural risk takers. Meaning that in the drop of a hat, we can move countries, we can change cultures, we can start over,
and we won't feel anything.
The second that happens, risk is not in our vocabulary anymore, right? You know,
absolutely.
So it makes it really easy for us to do that. That's the first one. A second one that I think is very key, and you talked about seeing both sides of the coin. I call this global vision. We are global visionaries.
Okay.
Meaning we can see things. We can see things differently than anyone else can see things. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep, agree with that.
So when you said you can see things from both sides of the coin, I call that global vision. Okay. And by the way, whether you're an unnatural risk taker or you have global vision, either just one of those makes you absolutely remarkable, especially if you're starting a business. Sets you light years ahead of anyone else that may be a competitor. And then the last thing, the last quality, and this is one where, you know, a lot of times we tend to look at the negative, being loneliness. I think that yes, we maybe don't want to connect with people if we don't feel like they are going to understand us.
Yep.
But oddly enough, the third quality is that we are confident collaborators, right? Like we can actually walk into a room, know that probably no one in there is going to understand who we are as third culture, but chances are you can connect with anyone in that room. And in fact, not only can you connect with them, you can meaningfully connect and possibly even collaborate, whether it's, you know, collaborate to do a venture, to start a business, to start a community. And because people are going to be drawn to you because that alone is so remarkable. So, you know, any one of those things by themselves, any one of those things is remarkable, but you have all three. And I call that the trilogy. You have the trilogy of TCK entrepreneurship, and that is what makes you an absolutely unstoppable, you know, business person, family person, community person. And I want you to focus on those, not necessarily the negatives. And that could be a game changer. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Maybe I got to resume my duty. That this is actually a really good point, of course. But I'm the host, so
yeah,
of course I have to resume my duty. No worries. I truly appreciate your point of view, because this is beyond what I would have expected out of a guest. So thank you so much. Really, thank you so much.
I love it.
Okay. Okay. So throughout can you actually maybe elaborate a bit more on what kind of business, on the business that you're currently doing? Actually, just to let you know, I actually saw your profile several years ago through LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah, but at that time I was in college, so I pretty much don't really bother with LinkedIn as well. Sure. I was a kid. So at that time, where I recalled you were in finance, right?
Yeah.
Years ago.
Yes.
And I actually rediscovered your profile at that time recently. So can you maybe elaborate a bit more on your entrepreneurship journey, and how has being a TCK has actually, you mentioned a lot of the qualities that has developed from your time as a TCK. So how has it actually been able to benefit you as an adult and as an entrepreneur?
Right. Well, real quick, just on my journey. So what we're doing now, like this discovery of helping third culture entrepreneurs and cross culture entrepreneurs, this is actually new. Okay, this is a new venture. Even though I've been doing it my whole life, to specifically want to sit down and build this out is new, right? So if you go, for example, if you go to my Instagram page, or if you go to my Facebook page, you'll see, you can tell it's new or newer, right? Like I don't have hundreds or thousands of followers. You know, one day, Calvin, I'll get to have a lot of followers like you, but I want. But my background, because I've been in business for myself since 2005, and so I've been in financial services for a total of about 12 years. So I owned I owned three successful companies, one of which I lost. So I had a great successful climb, and then I lost everything due to the market, but also due to not understanding as a TCK what I really had. Some strengths, you know, to be able to pivot. But I had so I had three businesses. One was a mortgage company, you know, financing and banking. Had that for about 6 years, and that was a you know, a successful 7-figure business. I used one of my qualities of unnatural risk taker to do some marketing things that no one else was doing at the time, and within 18 months I had built that into you know, $1 million business. But that was the one that I ended up losing. So again, it sounds like I might be bragging, but the truth is we all have lessons to learn regardless of failures and successes.
Absolutely.
I ended up going into, I took a break after that massive failure because I went into a major depression, you know, loneliness, depression. I mean, you name it, hopelessness, thoughts of suicide, all these different things, my friend. You know, when you don't have something or someone to turn to, it can be very tough. So I say God put me in timeout for 4 years. I went and I worked for a hotel chain. I was opening up luxury properties all over the Caribbean and south of the United States. And then I went and I worked in my dream job. I thought it was my dream job. I really just love football, soccer, right? The real football. And I worked for Major League Soccer here in the United States, in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's cool. LA Galaxy, or you're
I worked for Chivas. I worked for Chivas USA, but we worked in the same stadium with LA Galaxy. And I mean, you talk about a dream opportunity for a TCK, right?
Yeah, man.
So I did that, and then I got into insurance and retirement after that. Okay. But let me explain something to you, because people are like, well, why would you go from you know, sports to insurance? When you're an entrepreneur, you can't be boxed into a corporate system, you know. And listen, as cool as it was, financially I got capped, meaning I couldn't make more than a certain amount. And I remember I was working on my resume, Calvin. I was working on my again. And I heard a voice clear as day said, stop working on that, because you can't put what's in your heart and in your head on that piece of paper. And so that was the first time that I finally, after losing my business, that was the first time in 4 years I finally saw value in myself, and not just regular value, like remarkable value. And that's why I'm convinced that that was the day. I didn't know it, and I didn't know it then, but I know now that that was the day that I started a mission on eventually wanting to help other third culture kids. So those were the two businesses, right? So I had my own lending company, my own insurance company, which, by the way, I still have the insurance company. I still train entrepreneurs and homeowners about their finances. And then the third one was I started a coaching business, which is not this business. It was just a coaching business where I would help basically anyone that needed help wanting to grow their business. But it wasn't, here's what's interesting. It wasn't fulfilling because I wasn't helping who I truly was called to help. I was helping anyone that needed help. Okay. And so, so my fourth business is actually this, you know, third culture entrepreneur business. And that's where we're at right now. We're looking at it from a starting point, Calvin, but as far as how, you know, how my TCKness helped any of those businesses, those 3 points I went over. Risk taking, right? Global vision. and collaboration. I
Yeah.
use those in every single one. And when I realized, I was like, I didn't learn this as I was starting the business. I already had them.
It's
But
just that you need a platform where you can show it, right?
exactly. And that's why I want to help others realize that they can do the same thing too. And even if they're just starting a small ministry, even if they just want to start a community group, or if they want to start a full-fledged business, you can do the same. Yeah.
I can relate to that. So, why I actually started Global Citizens was because I think it was I started working for a British company.
Okay.
I think in October 2000. Now it's 2019, 2018. So my employer is actually, on the contrary, people usually say, "Oh, don't would leave bad bosses," right? Something along that line. Actually, my employer was really enjoyable because the thing is that they are a lot more open-minded, and they don't have what people like to call like, you don't have to address your boss as your boss directly, because the power distance is not that far for when it comes to British.
Okay.
However, if from your entrepreneurship experience, I think you would know that they have something like that is called a dry sense of humor, whereby you don't know whether those buggers are firing you, they're insulting you, or they are trying to praise you. You don't
Right.
know whether they're trying to do all this.
Funny.
And actually, it resulted in miscommunications between myself, my colleagues, and in fact, to some of our potential clients.
Mm.
And actually, at that time, if I tell my story to a salesperson, maybe they will tell me is, bro, you're just making excuses, man. You're not doing well in your sales. So, if I do not have anything at that time, okay, I would have accepted that.
Hmm.
But I actually have to give a reason for that. It was really circumstantial. We started in the month of October, I think around October 15 or 18 or something. So that was the month whereby every Singaporean is preparing to end work. They're preparing to go to holidays. They're
Mm.
preparing to end the. Basically, it's not the best time to start a business. And in fact, I think it was on February 2019, early this year. I actually were contacted by some of the people I met in networking events, and they actually tell me, "Hey, Calvin, we actually want to use your product. Any chance we can still talk to you, and we actually want to refer you to some people." There
Mm.
were at least four of them who contacted me. So at that time, we could have actually made around $40,000 or something. But by then, our my boss already gave us like 3 months probation, and 3 months is gone. So
Wow.
that was being one of the very first to start with the company. At that time, I was really burned out because I was working with a lot of employers
Mhm.
who, yes, I mean, business at the end of the day is to make money, right? However, a lot of businesses that I work with at that time do not stick to an actual value. There's one clown of an employer that I have that actually can blurt out the dirty laundry of the company in front of a potential customer.
Oof.
Yeah. So I don't know what he was thinking at that time, but he just blurted it out. It was on social media.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
don't know what he was thinking, but at that time was because, as what you said, I'm not doing something that I'm happy about.
Yeah.
I'm not working for something that is fulfilling enough. So at that time, one of the idea to create Global Citizens was because of this experience. I want to create a platform of why our different mindset is actually the one that could be most beneficial.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Okay, Pablo, sorry. Yeah?
It's good. It's good, man.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Okay, back to the question here. So you have been a TCK since you were young, right? So how have you maintained a healthy relationship with your family and your significant others? This one is actually inspired by some of my earlier guests, in fact, and at least so you are. This is actually the 14th episode of Global Citizens. So at least there's seven of us who actually had a history with bad relationship or divorce. The reason being is that because we just couldn't stick to a certain point of view, to a certain mindset that if we met somebody locally, we couldn't adjust to their mind frame properly. And being well, relationship itself is already complicated. You add in the international factor to it. How have you actually maintained your a healthy relationship with that? with your family members and your partner?
Yeah, this is a difficult one for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I can't speak to other people's experiences, even other TCKs. You know, I'm not going to try to generalize that. But what I can do is I'll speak to I'll give you two examples of my experiences. You know, I love my mother very much. You know, she was the one. You know, when I was born, she was born in Buenos Aires, in Argentina.
Oh, okay.
So we were born in Argentina. We left when I was 1 year old. I was 1 year old, and we moved to Greece. Okay, she had an entrepreneur spirit. You know, we didn't know anyone. We didn't speak the language. But my mother was the one that she taught me how to be a dreamer. She taught me that you can dream, right? That you can actually have dreams, that you can go after your dreams. And she also taught me that you can achieve your dreams. Okay. But what happened, what I realized too, and this is something that was on me as a TCK, as you know, after I left home and started my own life, my own career,
yeah,
and our relationship started to grow a little bit more distant. And what I discovered was the reason that happened was because I didn't realize it, but I was trying to find myself so much. And there was a post, someone did a post in one of the Facebook groups about this idea of, do we blame our parents sometimes if we have a bad experience being a TCK? And I think for a while, I was in that mode where, you know, maybe I didn't know who to blame. Maybe I blamed my mother. Maybe I blamed my stepmother. And after they divorced, I mean, it grew even harder. So that was challenging. But even today, right? I have a young son. He's 2 years old. You know, that has helped rejuvenate our relationship so much. Yeah. I've never seen her so happy. And I'm just happy that she is, you know, that we're now close again. Another relationship where I'll talk about, you know, a relationship of a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, yeah, is the one of me and my wife.
Okay.
I was living in Los Angeles, working for the professional team. I would come back to Maryland, to DC, to visit my mother.
Okay.
And she invited me to go have lunch with her at work. Okay. My mom at the time, she was working at Johns Hopkins, the international patient department. Okay. And of course, you know, moms, they always want to show off their son to their coworkers, yeah, and their friends. So she introduced me to all these people. And remember, I was living in LA at the time. And so she introduces me to, she says, and there's one more person I want to introduce you to. Oh. And it was this beautiful young lady. And I was like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, you know, I live 3,000 miles away, right? On the other side of the country.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. And so her and I, so the, you know, me and this girl, who today is my wife, we ended up going out. We went out twice for that week. I was there for a week. We went out twice, just casually, just have fun, you know, go to the little district. And but then I had to fly back home. I had to fly 3,000 miles back home. It was like going to another country, right? Here's what's crazy, Calvin. I knew about myself that I had tried to do long distance relationships in the past.
Yeah.
And I knew that I had screwed them up.
Yep. Okay. That didn't work out for me then.
So we didn't talk. We didn't communicate. We didn't stay in touch. When I moved back 2 years later, when I started my insurance and retirement company, yeah, my mother asked me, she said, Pablo, are you going to call Andreina?
Okay.
And I said, she's not married. She's I was sure that by now she would be gone. Yeah. And so, you know, about a year and a half later, we were engaged and married.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
But no, so thank you. But my point is that having the awareness of knowing kind of what some of our weaknesses are, if you know how to act on those weaknesses, as opposed, you know, certain things to do and certain things to not do. Had I tried to have a maintain a long distance relationship, I know we would not be together. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
So anyway, I hope that helps somebody, but that's just my personal experience. Okay.
No, no worries, no worries. Yeah. So one of the main purpose also of global citizens is actually something that was highlighted in my last interview also. It's because now the thing is that we have a live interaction for us as fellow TCK cross-culture kids. Basically, as the show's title is, global citizens, is because we now have an actual real life discussion of what it's like for us growing up, how is our everyday life. That is the main purpose of this channel. So there will be a lot of younger generations of TCKs who, well, with all due respect, with the utmost respect of saying this to parents, there are a lot of times that unless your parents are TCK, they do not know how to relate to you. Like, you can be some kid who come from Shanghai. You just moved to, I don't know, Los Angeles, and then everybody is like making fun of the way you talk. I'm not sure if they really still do this now, but cultural differences based on appearance or maybe peer pressure. It is something that can affect a young TCK without them knowing. They do not know that they are actually a young diamond in the rough. It's because they are not, well, um, not to worry, because in my channel we actually get curse, so no worries about that. But I'm sorry to young TCKs who is watching my show. When you are younger, life can be a bitch, especially during your teenage years. However, when you are older, you get to understand you are in an exclusive club. You have a certain international passport, for the better term, that actually allows you to be like to not only be like everybody, to stand out from everybody just for being who you are. That's what I actually want. One of the I actually want to be able to do that, but I did not expect that the impact can be that much. So yeah.
Yeah. Can I say one thing to the young TCKs, Calvin?
Yep. Sure. Please.
So I have a joke. I say, you know your TCK if you have ever lost a sibling in an international airport. You
Did
know
that
you're
happen?
TCK. Because ask my sister, 1988,
Oh.
Tokyo International Airport. We were getting ready to get on the flight. We were so ready to move to the next station that, you know, my stepfather had as military, that my mother, she grabbed the stuff and she looks at my stepfather. She says, "Where's Noreen?" And we're looking and we can't find her.
Oh no.
And we're getting ready to board the flight.
Younger sister. How young was she at that time?
She was like 3 years old, bro. 3 or 4, something like that. Yeah. So you know your TCK if you've ever lost. Eventually, they came on the overhead announcement. You know, it was a Japanese person in English. See, so this is so cool. Japanese person, but in English, saying, you know, we have your daughter. Come get her.
Oh my God. Isn't that a line from Taken or something from Liam Neeson?
But my sister grew up at TCK. Okay. My sister grew up at TCK. Very different life from me. We were 6 years apart, so very different life from me. Her and her brother are very close in age, but even she went through a lot of struggles too, right?
Absolutely.
You know, and challenges as a TCK, and you know, like I said, when our stepfather, you know, when my parents divorced, I mean, that was her father, right? And you know, but I'm not airing out my laundry, but I want to show you that there's hope, because today, you know, 15, 16 years later, maybe more, my sister, she's one of the top you know, representatives at her company. You know, she works for like a large motorcycle company in a very diverse part of the country that we live in, and she's one of the top representatives there, and she uses her TCK-ness, whether she knows it or not. I think she does, but whether she knows it or not, she uses that to her advantage. And she helps so many people. She brings value to them, and they are so grateful for the way that she is. And I know, and Calvin, just like you're saying, man, you're absolutely right. You have this international passport to connect, to collaborate, and to really just make a huge impact in people's lives. And don't ever let your past, right? Even if you were the one that almost got left behind in an airport, or even if you were the one that didn't make the baseball team, or even if you were the one that was heartbroken, don't ever let the past define you. Your past does not define your future. Not even your present defines your future. You can really start to change it right now, but using all the best of your past, not the worst of your past, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It really does. It really does. Throughout your years, though, as a TCK, have you ever do anything? Sorry, the question is this: have you ever created an anchor for yourself? What is your anchor? Like, basically, it is the center of your life that keeps you grounded. So, for myself, when I was younger, my anchor is achievement. Sorry, Chinese family. So it's like I feel angry, I feel upset, I feel demoralized when I don't accomplish things. It's like I know it sounds vain, but that was I can't say it's my background. I don't want to blame it on my background or nature or nurture kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But to me at that time, accomplishments, trophies, medals, certificates, all of this was an anchor to me.
Yeah.
So when I actually entered my adulthood, well, you starting to realize that all of this is just a decoration word on your shelf.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually had difficulty to relate to my family members, to my siblings and my parents. I mean, I love my siblings, I love my parents, and I'm very fortunate to have a really loving family. But the thing is that my parents, like my family, individuals, sorry, a unit. They are really cohesive. They are really open. They are really close to each other. I grew up outside of them, even though I still keep in touch with my parents, of course. But I grew up in Singapore alone. Well, not really alone, but I have my aunt and etc. and family members.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that when I come back, I just can't really bond with their point of view. It's because the global vision that I developed at that time, well, at the age of 16, you do not really develop it properly yet because you still do not have the maturity.
Right.
And in fact, when I came back to Indonesia, there was a little argument. It's because, yeah, I just couldn't follow an exact point of view that my parents or my sisters had been accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for yourself, so this is an anchor that I'm trying to cultivate on my own now. It's because I'm back here. I'm with my parents. For yourself, what has been your anchor
Yeah.
as a TCK?
Well, thank you for sharing that. In fact, while you were saying that, I immediately was able to relate to that achievement mindset, that achievement anchor, which is an anchor that won't anchor you. It's an anchor that will bring you down. It'll bring down the whole ship. And and you heard me mention earlier about the business that I had that I lost. Okay, so we grew up with a bad relationship. I grew up with a bad relationship with money. Okay, my stepfather, who was enlisted in the military, means he only made a very small amount of money for a family of 5. We were very grateful for military housing. If we didn't have military housing, I don't know where we would live, because we wouldn't have been able to afford it. So what happens was when I opened my first business and I built that business to $1 million business, of course, I was like, look, I've made it. I've done it. I've been able to conquer and achieve. And I would look at all of my success based on how much achievement financially I had gained.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, I'm going to just look at everything in that regard. And then when all of it went away in a matter of about 12 months, um, that was like somebody just ripping the life out from inside of you. And I found myself in even a deeper hole, deeper hopelessness, deeper depression than ever before. Yeah. So I'm very careful now because I made that mistake once, right? And so anyone that's watching, hopefully, we have to do it for something that's more than that. We have to do it for something that's more than money. We have to do what we do for something that's more than just what we're able to drive or where we live. But so for me, my anchor has really just become about a passing on of love and care and adding value. Yeah. It's all about other people. You know, there's a saying that one of my mentors, John Maxwell, says. He says, "Be a river, not a reservoir. Be a river, not a reservoir of everything that you learn." Meaning, you might grow and learn and discover different things, or you might even grow and learn a successful business, but don't keep it all inside for yourself, right? Yep. Don't be like a reservoir where water just collects and then doesn't do anything. Yep. Be a river where you can now flow into other people. If you think about it, some of the, you know, I don't know, maybe you know, some of the most incredible cities in the world are built along the edges of rivers, not of reservoirs, right?
Yeah, that's
right? So be a river, not a reservoir.
That does make sense.
Yeah. So, you know, so for me, that's what the anchor has really become, is become this idea that, and especially now that I have kids, right? I have a young son, and I have one on the way. And so, you know, for me, it's that was a way to learn that lesson. It's all about others, but really, you know, we have to build this community. So that's why I give you so much credit for wanting to do this program. You know, whether you know it or not, you're affecting not only the people that you're interviewing, you're also affecting obviously the audience, but then you're affecting people that you don't even know you're affecting. Meaning, somebody might watch this, who then is going to turn around and go home for the holidays and share something that maybe they didn't realize about themselves, and now they're going to share, and that's going to spark or reignite a relationship. Whether it's a personal relationship, a family relationship, a business relationship, and they're going to say, "Oh, wow." And now all of a sudden you've affected something that's beyond you even knowing. And that's what I call legacy, right? People talk about leaving a legacy. It's not about money that you leave. It's not about your name on a building. It's about the relationships and the development of people beyond who you even know. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Back to my question here. So earlier, I think we mentioned regarding an intercultural environment and a community, right? How important do you feel it is in today's society? And if let's say you have a team, maybe for maybe one person is a Japanese, one person is a Spanish, one person is an American and an Italian. How would you manage them? It's because every single one of them grow up with a different kind of customs and ethics and culture.
Yeah.
How would you manage it, Pablo?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. And so currently in my business, I don't have a team.
Okay.
My business is me, and well, my wife helps me out with some things, and then I collaborate with people that are really independent, right? So I collaborate with like vendors. However, all of them are different cultures, different races, different things. Number one thing is that it's got to be about respect.
Absolutely.
It just starts with respect for everyone else, regardless of where you're from, regardless of what background you are. Just respect that you are a human being, that you are just as valuable as any other person. Doesn't matter how much money this person makes. And that's really the foundation of it. It's a respect, right? I mean, we were all made in God's image, and so I'm in no way going to disrespect any other person, regardless of what they believe, where they're from, what they look like. Okay, so I think when you start with that, but then you also, here's the part that we miss. Remember, I said river, not a reservoir. So
Yeah.
reservoir means I might know that, but if I don't say that, Calvin,
Yep.
if I don't let you and then everyone else on the team know that in an open environment, I miss my opportunity. So it really has to start with the expectation of I respect and care about everyone in here. I expect each and every one of you to do the same for each other. And you know, and actually, I have a documentary that they I have them go through it, have them sign. So if there's any problems, that instead of trying to handle it, that they would first go to that conversation, because I think that's that's how you would do it in a family. So if you treat your business or your people like family, like you want your family to be treated, then that's how I would start. And by the way, I think another very important thing is understanding personality types. So
Yeah.
I'm DISC certified, so that's another thing. Anyone that I work with, I have them fill out, do an assessment, because I want to know what. I don't only just say I want to respect them. I want to know what is the best way that they receive information.
Oh, I've actually created a method on that using fried chicken.
Yeah.
So I have two older sisters. My elder sister is somebody who is a natural saleswoman. She is amazing in that sense. Is that she's somebody who is target driven. My second elder sister is somebody who is a little bit more analytical. She has been working in her accountancy firm for over 8 years. She has assumed every single position available within that company. She's like one of her boss's right hand.
Wow.
So my elder sister has a habit of eating the chicken immediately. So if she has a piece of fried chicken, she will finish everything in one shot. Whereas my second tend to peel off the skin, put it elsewhere first, and then she will eat it. Then after that, she will eat it. So it's like a bit more in a more analytical sense.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I never heard that. You've got some interesting analogies. I love it.
Yeah, I call it SSW and SW. Sorry. Yeah, I name it after both my sisters.
Okay.
Actually, they know about it, SSW and SLW. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's actually something that both of them know about it, but I think they forgot about it. I
Right.
actually created a method using their eating habits.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that's one way. I mean, you can identify their personal characteristics. It's like, okay, maybe you're somebody who's a little bit more target driven. So I know how to motivate you. I know how to work with you. Maybe I know a proper role for you. I mean, it's something that you can adjust in how you speak, or even how you can determine in your characteristic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's also stuff like the Briggs-Meyer personality test and stuff. But the thing is that I'm somebody who understands people better by speaking. So I guess that's a method I use. Of course,
Right.
I posted it in Medium, but the thing is that it's I've never really used my Medium much. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, listen, it just goes back to how do you better communicate when there's lots of different people, and sometimes people aren't just different because of where they're from; they're different because of how they were wired when they were born.
Yeah.
So if you pay more attention to that, as opposed to like what they eat, what kind of food they eat, or how they worship, or things like that, none of that's important when it comes to getting the job done. It's important to respect that, so that when we have a one-on-one conversation, or even when we're having, like you said, right, when you're having a conversation in front of everyone, right, to make sure that you're keeping everyone in mind. But at the same time, it's like, if you just are worried about treating everyone in the room like they are your family member that you love and that you care for, in the end, because we're gonna still mess up, right, Calvin? We're still gonna say something,
Absolutely.
you know. Trust me, like I screw up all the time.
Yep.
How many times am I failed today? I've already messed up a couple of times today, right? But my point is that even when that happens, as long as we've started with the heart and respect, you're gonna be able to have forgiveness, right? And
Absolutely.
it's not gonna sever a relationship because of it.
Agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
This has been fun. I really appreciate it, man. I'm having a good time. I don't know about you, but I am, Calvin.
Well, if you're not having a good time, it's not worth doing it. That's what Richard Branson
There
used
you
to
go.
say.
Exactly.
Okay. This is actually my last question. Okay. What three advice would you give to somebody who is about to enter the real world? Maybe they are out of college, or maybe this is something that I think if you grow up in an Asian environment, this is something that can be a little challenging to you, is because now you want to break off of your family's living, because you might be working for your dad or your mom and you might not be too happy with it. You want to branch out, you want to enter the real world, as
Right.
I said. Yeah. Do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I had shared with you a document,
Yep.
but I'd really like to talk to that because I feel like when I left, when I graduated high school, I wasn't sure if I was going to go into college or not because we were moving again. We were moving from Spain back to the U.S. My parents had just divorced. It was really a lot of changes, and different changes that I wasn't used to, not just moving, but family dynamics, and that was
Yep.
changing. So, but what I realized was there was three things that I needed to have that I didn't realize until later, and I want to give those things to you now. I look at what we need in life to start on this next journey as someone who's entering the real world. It's all real. It's all real.
Yeah, it's all real, but the thing is now you're out of the books.
Yeah.
You didn't succeed in life by doing well on your SATs or any of its other international equivalent.
I was not a good student. I was not the best student. Okay, I was an okay student. I was not the best student. In fact, what I
You
did,
can tell your younger self it's fine. Jack Ma used to say you don't need to be the number one student. You can be just in the middle. That way you get to learn more skill that would make the number one student your employee.
absolutely right. But even in my college years, Calvin, I was a TCK in my university. I did, you're really required to do one internship, I think, in
Okay.
most universities, right? One internship. I was a TCK in the university. I did 5 internships.
Wow.
Not because I was an overachiever, but because I wanted to explore. I wanted to keep exploring. I wanted to keep exploring. I knew I wanted to be in media somehow. So I did a radio internship. I did a promotions radio company promotions internship. When I did the radio internship, I was actually the DJ for an AM station on campus. I did a marketing company internship. I did an advertising agency internship, and then I did an internet company internship.
Wow.
Right.
That's
And
all. You're a
but in the end,
visionary. You're a visionary.
well, all I knew was that I better figure, because I knew I didn't have the best grade, so I knew I wasn't going to just get hired because of my grade. So I better hurry up and figure out what I want to do before I leave. So one thing I would say is, do as much as you can now. Explore while you're in school, while your main focus is growing and learning. But I want you to take that beyond. Don't ever lose that growing and learning mindset just because you stop going to school, right? They say I forget what the number is, but it's something ridiculous. Like less than 21% of people who graduate college ever read one other book in their entire life.
Yep.
Okay. Don't let that be you. As a TCK, you're remarkable. But I would look at life as a journey. And on a journey, you need 3 documents. And if you're gonna travel from this country to that country, you need 3 documents. Okay. And those documents are your airfare, your passport, and your visa.
Yep.
You need those. Now, if you're in the United States, you might not need a visa. If you're from the US, you might not need a visa to go to another country, but just work with me here. Airfare, passport, visa. Your airfare is your destination, right? When I buy my ticket, it means where I want to go. I know where I want to go. So you gotta have a desire. You gotta have a dream. You gotta have a destination. That's your airfare. Okay, we're gonna play along with this analogy. The second one is you gotta have a passport. Good. Right? That's gonna give you your international access. And really, what is a passport? A passport ties you to your identification. It ties you to a government. It ties you to who you are, right? So it's really your identity. And it also ties you to the resources of that government. So really, having your passport is all about knowing who you are, right? Being grounded, and I help people with that. I help people discover what that's all about. But it's also knowing about what you have access to, what kind of resources you have access to. And as a college student coming out, I feel like there's so many more resources now available. But if you don't know, you have to connect with somebody that does. And then lastly, you have to have your visa.
Yep.
And Calvin, what does a visa give you access to do?
Entering a foreign country?
For a purpose, right? Yep. It gives you an assignment. A visa actually, like for example, when my wife came to this country, she came on a student visa, right? Oh. And then she ended up getting a work visa, right? So every time you travel, you get a visa because it gives you an assignment. And in knowing your assignment, that means you know you have to know who you're going to serve. When you have an assignment, you know who you're going to serve, and you also know what it is that you're going to serve them with.
Yep.
So really, you have to have those 3 things if you want to go on this journey of real life. You have to know where you're going. You have to know who you are and who are your resource and what are your resource, and then you have to know who you are serving and what you are serving them with. And that I call, that's what I call your onboarding, your TCK onboarding pass. You have to have that. I didn't have that when I got started. I had to find it kind of on my own.
Yeah.
But listening to guys like Calvin, and your hosts or your guests that you had, and I really appreciate you. This is what's important, right? It's making sure people are equipped with that, and that's really what our business is all about. Is about the 3 E's, right? It's to encourage TCKs, to empower TCKs, and then to equip them to be able to be successful. Whether you're starting a business or you're starting out, in life, in your life and work journey.
Just to everyone here who is watching it, that's actually my last question. Just to be a sort of encouragement to people, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no end to learning. There's no end to be you. And
right.
Well, if I have to summarize it, I guess I can learn it from my own experience. My first ever episode, I was using a camera that's only worth like around 480 pixels, so it was really black. And in fact, my guest's audio was able to hear. We are able to hear him, but it was so blurry. So I come to 14 episodes. So your first ever failure does not define who you are. Pablo is already said that, and everything is a learning process to it. All right, so to end this episode, maybe I'll just do a little bit shout out. So two of my previous guests is actually watching this channel, and they gave a love here. So one of them is Miss Carrie Pips, who actually was celebrating her birthday a few days back. So I really wish her, but happy birthday, Carrie. So Carrie is an international speaker who is actually from Australia, but she also spent considerable amount of time in Singapore.
Mhm.
So she actually has faced issues based on different ethnicities, and I was really grateful when she come. So there's also Miss Sana Brenner. There's actually the previous guest. Sana is actually an international journalist now. I believe she's in Bangalore. So thank you so much, Sana, for still tuning
How are
in.
you, Sana?
And oh yes, I definitely cannot forget this gentleman. So it's Mr. Rayson Chu. Rayson is actually one of the person who inspired me to create a podcast because he
Listen.
actually you should Pablo, I recommend you also watch his podcast. Rayson actually hosts a lot of entrepreneurs to pick
Sure.
their brains,
Awesome.
and he in fact has both Gary Vaynerchuk and Grant Cardone as his guests before.
Nice. Very good. Very good.
And of course, lastly, is a brother of mine. His name is Melvin. Oh, he already commented since just now. How am I? Oh, I'm fine, brother. Thank you. All right. So, oh yeah, for one last thing, for the audience who are watching this, there's actually Pablo has generously given us a link to a free gift. Yeah, Pablo, maybe you want to elaborate a bit more on that.
Yeah, so appreciate it, Calvin, and again, thank you for anyone that's watching. We're just having a great time here, and one of the things that I wanted to be able to always do is to add value, right? That's I think as entrepreneurs, as speakers, as coaches, like we always need to just be adding value to our audience, and just removing from our stratosphere that this person has to do business with me, right? I've come
Yeah.
across so many people that they're only willing to help if they think somebody is going to do business with them. So what I've done is I created a document just called it's kind of a blueprint for what I call the TCK business onboarding pass. Right. So we just talked about, the three things that you would need: your airfare, your passport, and your visa. So what I've done is I put that into a document. I think it would serve you, would help you. And all it is really a self-check in those three areas, right? Where are you at? And just to really give you an idea of what maybe, heading into 2020, what you can be focusing on, what areas. And if some of those areas you feel like we might be able to help you with, hey, listen, you've got my contact information. But I am just so grateful to be able to come back and share with you guys, and Calvin have me on. Like I said, we need more people like him. We need more people like you all that are watching, to go out and do these things and to help people, because there are people that need your voice to be heard. And until your voice has your message, they're going to stay stuck.
Yeah.
So we really need to take responsibility for that. But hopefully that document helps somebody here.
All right. And with that, we've come to the end of the 14th episode of Global Citizen. Thank you so much, Pablo. And to everyone here, now it's actually 11 p.m. in Indonesia.
All right.
I
Thanks,
think,
Calvin.
yeah, I think a lot of people are either asleep or they're gonna hit the hay already. All right.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of the day, Pablo, and thank you so much for coming into the show. So, and with that, we end this episode. Bye.
All right, guys. Thank you.